I walked into my parents' house to find them berating my 6-year-old daughter, calling her useless for not washing dishes perfectly, while my sister's kids mocked her, so I stopped their mortgage payments, and the bank's next move left everyone reeling. The air in the Seattle park was thick with the scent of grilled hot dogs and sunscreen, the kind of late May afternoon that screams Americana. Kids screaming in a bounce house, red plastic cups littering picnic tables, and a 3-tiered birthday cake gleaming under a cloudless sky. I stood at the edge of the chaos, clutching a gift bag with a drone kit for my niece Lily, my heart already heavy from the weight of a decade's worth of unspoken resentment. At 36, I'd built a life most would envy. Compliance officer at Cyber Peak, a cybersecurity titan in San Francisco, with a corner office overlooking the bay. But here, in this suburban park, I wasn't Claire Donovan, whistleblower, or tech powerhouse. I was just the sister who paid for everything. And then, as my brother Ethan handed me a cupcake with a sneer that cut deeper than any knife, he said it. "Here's your cake, ATM. Keep the cash flowing." The words hit like a sucker punch. The crowd, family, neighbors, strangers, froze, their laughter dying as Ethan's voice carried over the chatter. My niece Lily, turning 12 today, looked up from her pile of gifts, her brown eyes wide with confusion. My brother's wife, Sarah, smirked, her manicured nails glinting as she adjusted her new designer sunglasses. My mother, Diane, standing by the cake table, muttered, "Claire, don't make a scene." But the scene was already made. 10 years of bankrolling their lives. $150,000, 0 cents in loans, tuition, medical bills, and home renovations flashed before me. The $25,000, 0 cents I'd wired just last week for Lily's elite academy tuition burned in my mind. I set the cupcake down, my hands trembling, and walked to the gift table. Every eye followed me as I found the envelope. My backup gift, the confirmation of that tuition payment, with a note promising automatic transfers for the next year. I held it up, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. "Good luck paying for Lily's school," I said, tearing the paper to shreds. "I'm done being your bank." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan's face went pale, his mouth half open like a fish out of water. Sarah's sunglasses slid down her nose as she gaped. Lily's lip quivered, and my heart cracked. But I couldn't stop. Not now. I turned and strode toward my rental car, the gravel crunching under my boots, ignoring Diane's pleas to think of Lily. I slid into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and peeled out of the park, my pulse hammering in my ears. The rearview mirror caught Ethan chasing after me, his arms flailing, but I didn't slow down. I was done. That's when it happened. 2 miles down the winding road, a black SUV roared up behind me, its headlights glaring in my mirror. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white as it swerved closer, its bumper kissing mine. My heart lurched. I accelerated, but the SUV matched my speed, then slammed into my rear fender. The car spun, tires screeching, and I fought to steer as the world tilted. The SUV gunned its engine and vanished into the dusk as my car skidded off the road, plunging into a shallow ditch. My airbag didn't deploy, but the seatbelt bit into my shoulder, and my forehead grazed the steering wheel, leaving a warm trickle of blood. I sat there, shaking, the engine hissing in the quiet. Was this random? Or was it connected to the data breach I'd uncovered at Cyber Peak, a scandal that could topple the company and land me in more danger than I'd ever imagined? I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, in a split-level house with a sagging porch and a backyard that always smelled faintly of damp pine. Ethan, 3 years older, was my protector, my confidant. We'd lie on our bunk beds, whispering about our dreams, me coding apps that would change the world, him building custom motorcycles that roared with freedom. Our parents, Diane and Tom, were solid middle class, Dad an insurance adjuster, Mom a librarian, but when I was 15, their marriage imploded. Dad's affair with his secretary wasn't just a betrayal, it was a financial wrecking ball. Child support checks were sporadic, and Mom's librarian's salary couldn't cover the mortgage. We downsized to a cramped apartment, the kind with thin walls and neighbors who fought at 2 a.m. I got a job slinging burgers at a diner, working doubles to save for college. Ethan, already 18, dropped out of trade school, said he couldn't focus with the family falling apart. He met Sarah at a dive bar, married her at 21, and started a life I didn't realize I'd be funding. I clawed my way through the University of Washington, majoring in computer science while juggling 3 jobs, diner shifts, tutoring, and a gig restocking vending machines. I lived on coffee and adrenaline, my nights spent coding in a dorm room that smelled like burnt ramen. Ethan, meanwhile, bounced between construction jobs, each one ending with an excuse: bad boss, slow season, you name it. When Lily was born, I flew back to Tacoma with a suitcase stuffed with baby clothes and a $5,000 0-cents check to cover Sarah's unpaid maternity leave. I told myself it was for Lily, my bright-owned niece who deserved better than her parents' chaos. By 28, I'd landed at CyberPeak in San Francisco, a cybersecurity firm with a glossy reputation and darker secrets. My compliance officer role gave me access to sensitive data, and at 30, I stumbled onto something that changed everything. A massive data breach cover-up. CyberPeak had buried evidence of hacked user accounts, millions of them, because admitting it would tank their stock and invite lawsuits. I became a whistleblower, gathering evidence on a locked laptop, knowing I was risking my career, maybe more. The CEO, Victor Lang, called me into his office one day, his smile as cold as the glass walls around us. "Drop this, Claire," he said, leaning forward, "or you'll never work in tech again. You know how blacklists work." I nodded, my throat tight, but I kept collecting proof, saving it to an encrypted drive I hid in my apartment. Ethan's calls for money started small, a $1,000 0-cents loan for rent when Sarah lost her retail job. I sent it, thinking he'd pay me back. He didn't. The requests grew: $10,000, 0 cents for Sarah's emergency gallbladder surgery, $30,000, 0 cents for a home renovation to give Lily stability, $50,000, 0 cents for her private academy tuition. I wired the money every time, my savings dwindling as their lifestyle ballooned. Ethan bought a luxury SUV. Sarah wore designer clothes. Their house in Seattle's suburbs gleamed with upgrades: a new deck, hardwood floors, a kitchen island that screamed HGTV. I told myself it was for Lily, but the resentment grew, a knot in my gut I couldn't untie. Lily's 12th birthday party was a spectacle. The park was decked out like a Pinterest board: string lights, a bounce house, a professional photographer snapping candids. I arrived with the drone kit, a $300 0 cents gift I'd researched for weeks, knowing Lily's obsession with tech. Sarah greeted me in a new sundress, her hair freshly highlighted. "Claire, you made it," she said, her hug too tight, her perfume too strong. Ethan clapped me on the back, his grin too wide. "Big shots here," he said, winking at the crowd. I forced a smile, noticing the new patio furniture, the catered spread, the $2,000 0 cents cake shaped like a rocket ship. My money, I thought, my stomach churning. Diane pulled me aside early on, her librarian glasses slipping down her nose. "Don't stir things up today, Claire," she whispered. "It's for Lily." I nodded, but the weight of her words, always protecting Ethan, pressed harder. Sarah's cousin Tara cornered me by the taco bar. "Wow, their place looks amazing," she said, sipping rosé. "How do they afford this with Ethan's spotty gigs?" I shrugged, the lie bitter. I manage, but they didn't. The moment came during cake time. Lily, in a sparkly dress, stood beaming as everyone sang. Ethan cut the first slice, handing it to me with that smirk. "Here's your cake, Adrian. Keep the cash flowing. The crowd laughed, some nervously, some oblivious, but Sarah's giggle was sharp, deliberate. Diane muttered, "Clay." The $150,000, 0 cents I'd given them, every late-night shift, every skipped vacation, every dream deferred, roared in my head. I set the plate down, walked to the gift table, and grabbed the tuition envelope. "Good luck paying for Lily's school," I said, ripping it apart. "I'm done being your bank." Ethan froze. Sarah's face twisted in shock. Lily's eyes welled up. I turned and walked away, my boots crunching on the gravel, their voices fading behind me. The SUV attack came minutes later. I was still shaking when I climbed out of the ditch. My rental car's front end crumpled. My phone buzzed. 25 missed calls, Ethan's name flashing most. I ignored them, my hands slick with sweat as I called a tow truck. Back at my hotel, I checked my apartment's security app. Motion sensors had triggered at 2 a.m. I pulled up the footage. 2 figures in hoodies prying open my door, slipping inside. My laptop, the one with my whistleblower evidence, was gone. My heart pounded. Was this cyber peak? Ethan? Or just a cruel coincidence? I flew back to San Francisco the next morning, my forehead still bruised from the crash. Lily's text waited for me. "Aunt Claire, why don't you love me anymore?" I sank onto my couch, tears burning. I typed back, "I love you, Lily. This is grown-up stuff. I'll always be your aunt." To Ethan and Diane, I sent one message. "I need space. I'll call when I'm ready." Then I silenced my phone. Monday, I called my boss at Cyber Peak. "I need a week off," I said, my voice flat. "Family emergency." She didn't push, but I could hear the suspicion in her pause. That night, alone in my apartment, I opened my backup drive, relief washing over me. The whistleblower files were still there, mirrored before the theft, but as I scrolled, a new email popped up from an anonymous address. "Drop the Cyber Peak story, or the next crash won't be an accident." My blood ran cold. I stared out my window, the San Francisco skyline glittering, but all I could see was that black SUV, its headlights like eyes in the dark. The next day, I drove to a remote beach on Puget Sound, needing to clear my head. The waves crashed, gray and relentless, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. A low hum broke the silence, a drone, hovering 50 feet above, its camera glinting. I froze, my pulse spiking. Was this Cyber Peak's doing? Lang had the resources, the motive. I ducked under a tree, but the drone followed, its lens tracking me like a predator. I ran to my car, my breath ragged, and sped back to the city. Back home, Ethan's email was waiting. "You're ruining Lily's life. Public schools here are a disaster. You know we can't afford her academy without you." I deleted it, my fingers shaking. Diane's voicemails piled up, each one heavier with guilt. "Claire, you're breaking Lily's heart. Call me." I didn't. Instead, I called a lawyer friend, Natalie, who'd seen Ethan's pattern for years. "You're not the villain here," she said. "They've been bleeding you dry." Her words were a lifeline, but the weight of Lily's text lingered. Wednesday, I met with Dr. Kessler, a therapist specializing in family dynamics. I poured out the story. The party, the crash, the break-in, the drone. "You've been their safety net," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But enabling them has cost you your own life." I nodded, the truth sinking in. I'd sacrificed friendships, dating, dreams of starting my own company, all to keep Ethan's family afloat. The $150,000, 0 cents, could have been a down payment on a house, a trip around the world, a cushion for my future. Instead, it had bought Ethan's SUV and Sarah's designer bags. That night, my phone lit up with a news alert. A shady blog had published my whistleblower documents, naming me as the source. My stomach dropped. The files were incomplete, twisted to make me look like a disgruntled employee. But the damage was done. My name was out there, tied to CyberPeak's scandal. I called Ryan, the journalist I'd met through a mutual contact who was investigating the same breach. "This is bad, Claire," he said. "You need to watch your back. Lang's got connections, dangerous ones." Friday, as I walked home from a coffee shop, 2 men in ski masks stepped out of an alley, blocking my path. "Drop the CyberPeak story," one growled, his hand on something bulky under his jacket. I froze, my heart hammering, but a passing car's headlights spooked them, and they vanished into the dark. I ran home, barricading my door, my hands shaking as I checked the locks. The next morning, a letter from Lily's academy arrived, claiming I owed $25,000 0 cents for unpaid tuition because I'd committed to future payments. I laughed bitterly. Ethan must have signed my name to some contract. I met Mia, my oldest friend, for dinner that weekend, the first time in months I hadn't canceled on her. Over tacos, I spilled everything: the party, the crash, the threats. "You've been carrying their weight for years," she said, her eyes fierce. "You deserve your own life, Claire." Her words echoed Dr. Kessler's, and I felt a spark of something I hadn't in years: hope. By Sunday, I was ready to confront Ethan. I called him, my voice steady. "You've taken $150,000 0 cents from me over 10 years, I said. "I'm done." He sputtered. "It's not that much. You're exaggerating." I'd checked my bank records. $150,400 0 cents to be exact. "You bought a luxury SUV while I paid your daughter's tuition," I snapped. "You mocked me in front of everyone. I'm not your ATM." He went quiet, then tried guilt. "Lily's school spot is gone without you. You're punishing her." I hung up, my hands shaking but my resolve firm. The next week, Natalie called. "The family's freaking out in our group chat," she said, laughing. "Ethan's acting like you burned their house down." I smiled for the first time in days. Good. Maybe they'll learn to stand on their own. But the threats didn't stop. Another anonymous email arrived. "We know where you live. Back off, CyberPeak." I forwarded it to Ryan, who was digging deeper into Lang's ties to a shady private security firm. "This could be bigger than we thought," he said. "Maybe even government contracts." I started spending time with Lily, just the 2 of us. We coded a simple game at a tech workshop, her eyes lighting up as the screen came alive. "You're cooler than Mom and Dad," she said, and I laughed, but the guilt lingered. Was I hurting her by cutting off the money? Dr. Kessler's words echoed. "What are you teaching Lily by letting her parents exploit you?" I realized she was learning relationships were transactional, that love came with a price tag. I wanted better for her. Ethan and Sarah started adapting. Ethan took a second job at a warehouse. Sarah sold her designer bags on eBay. Lily thrived in public school, joining a robotics team and making new friends. Diane called, her voice softer now. "I enabled Ethan too long," she admitted. "I leaned on you after the divorce and it set a pattern. I'm sorry." Her words healed something I didn't know was broken. By June, I moved to a cheaper loft in Oakland, a fresh start. I hired a financial planner, rebuilding my savings and dreaming of a house by the bay. Sarah sent a 7-page letter, handwritten, not an email, a rarity for her. "I took you for granted," she wrote. "I'm sorry for the ATM comment. We were living a lie and you forced us to face it." She detailed their changes, selling their second car, Ethan's new job, her part-time gig at Lily's school. "I miss my sister," she ended. I cried reading it 3 times, but Dr. Kessler warned me. Apologies don't always mean change. We had a video call the next week. Sarah looked different. No highlights, no polish, just tired honesty. "Lily's doing great in public school," she said. "Her math teacher says she's gifted." We talked for 2 hours, navigating the wreckage of our past. I was clear. No more money, but I wanted my sister back. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm trying, Claire. In July, I met Sarah for coffee in Seattle. She arrived early, 2 black coffees waiting, mine just how I liked it. Ethan's struggling, she admitted. He thinks you betrayed us. I sipped my coffee, watching her. And you? She sighed. I think we betrayed you. We leaned on you because it was easy, not because it was right. She was in therapy now, a shock for someone who'd once called it rich people nonsense. Ethan emailed me in August, his tone stiff but sincere. I messed up, he wrote. We're working on our marriage, facing our money problems for the first time. I don't expect forgiveness yet, but I'm trying. Lily, meanwhile, was thriving, saving her allowance for a drone kit, proud of her public school's science team. Dad's teaching me to budget, she told me during a museum outing, her smile bright. By September, I invited them for a Labor Day barbecue at a neutral venue, a Seattle restaurant. Ethan shook my hand awkwardly, Sarah hugged me, and Lily showed off her science fair ribbon. Diane watched us, her eyes misty. I thought we'd lost this, she said. I was wrong to push you to keep paying. Sarah nodded. We're managing. It's tight, but it's honest. They'd sold half their furniture, canceled their vacation, and Ethan was building custom tables on weekends. October brought a new threat. Ryan uncovered evidence linking CyberPeak's security firm to a government contractor, hinting at a cover-up beyond corporate greed. If this goes public, he said, you're not just a whistleblower, you're a target. I doubled my apartment's security, my nights sleepless, but I kept pushing, sharing my files with a federal investigator. At Lily's 13th birthday, a simple park picnic with homemade cupcakes, I saw a new family. Ethan, tired but proud, talked about his woodworking. Sarah, now full-time at Lily's school, glowed with purpose. Lily hugged me, showing me her latest coding project. As we sat under an oak tree, Sarah handed me a lemonade, her eyes soft. Thank you, she said, not just for today, but for making us face ourselves. I nodded, the knot in my gut finally loosening. We're going to be okay, I said, and I meant it. But as I drove back to my hotel, Ryan's warning echoed. Who was behind the SUV, the break-in, the drone? Was CyberPeak's reach deeper than I feared? And would my family's fragile new bond survive if the truth about my whistleblowing blew everything apart? I didn't know, but for the first time, I felt ready to face it, not as their ATM, but as Claire Donovan, the woman who'd finally claimed her own life. The San Francisco fog clung to my skin like a second layer of doubt as I stepped out of my Oakland loft, my breath catching at every shadow. It was June, a month since Lily's catastrophic birthday party, and my life had become a tightrope walk between family betrayal and the dangerous fallout of my whistleblower crusade against CyberPeak. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another anonymous text. You can't hide forever, Donovan. I deleted it, my pulse spiking, but the words lingered like the hum of that drone on the Puget Sound beach. Was it CyberPeak's hired muscle, a disgruntled family member, or something bigger, something I couldn't yet see? I locked my door, double-checking the new deadbolt I'd installed after the break-in, and headed to meet Ryan, the journalist who'd become my unexpected ally, and maybe something more. The cafe in the Mission District was a haven of clinking mugs and indie folk music, but my eyes scanned every face, every exit. Ryan sat in the corner, his laptop open, his dark hair falling over eyes that held a mix of concern and determination. You look like you haven't slept in a week, he said as I slid into the booth, my hand still trembling from the latest threat. I haven't, I admitted, glancing over my shoulder. 2 masked guys cornered me last night. told me to drop the CyberPeak story or else. My voice cracked, betraying the fear I'd tried to bury. Ryan's jaw tightened and he slid a flash drive across the table. "This is bigger than we thought," he said, his voice low. "I traced that blog that leaked your documents. It's tied to a shell company, which leads to a private security firm CyberPeak's been paying off. And, get this, there's a paper trail to a government contractor. If your evidence goes public, it could expose more than a data breach. It could unravel a surveillance network." My stomach dropped. "Government?" I whispered, the word heavy with implications. I'd known CyberPeak was dirty, but this was a beast I wasn't sure I could fight. I pocketed the drive, my mind racing. What do they want with me? I'm just a compliance officer. "You're the one who found their dirty laundry," Ryan said. "And they know you won't stop. That crash, the break-in, the drone. It's all them, Claire. They're trying to scare you silent." I nodded, but fear wasn't the only thing driving me now. Anger simmered beneath it. Anger at CyberPeak, at Ethan and Sarah for years of exploitation, at myself for letting it all happen. I'd given them $150,000, 0 cents over a decade, funding their luxury SUV, their remodeled deck, Lily's $50,000 0 cents private school tuition. And for what? To be mocked as their ATM at a kid's birthday party? To have my life threatened for daring to stand up for myself? No more. I was done playing the martyr. Back at my loft, I opened my laptop, the one I'd replaced after the break-in, and reviewed my whistleblower files. The data breach was massive. Millions of user accounts exposed, personal information sold on the dark web. All while CyberPeak's CEO, Victor Lang, buried the truth to protect stock prices. My evidence was ironclad. Internal emails, server logs, even a recorded call where Lang admitted to the cover-up. But now, with Ryan's intel, it was clear this wasn't just about corporate greed. If CyberPeak was tied to government surveillance, exposing them could make me a target for people far more dangerous than Lang. My phone buzzed again. Ethan this time, his name flashing like a warning. I ignored it, but the voicemail he left was a gut punch. "Claire, you're killing us. Lily's school called. They're suing us for the tuition you promised. You can't do this to her." I deleted it, my hands shaking, but Lily's text from last week echoed in my mind. "Aunt Claire, why don't you love me anymore?" I loved her more than anything, but I couldn't keep enabling her parents' reckless spending. I texted her back, keeping it simple. "I love you, Lily. Let's go to the aquarium this weekend. Just you and me. No money, no strings. Just time with my niece, the one person in this mess who didn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire." Therapy with Dr. Kessler was my anchor that week. Her office, with its sage-green walls and overstuffed couch, felt like the only place I could breathe. "You're breaking a cycle," she said, her glasses perched on her nose as she scribbled notes. "Your family leaned on you because you let them, but enabling isn't love. It's control dressed up as kindness." I nodded, the truth sinking in. Growing up in Tacoma, after Dad's affair tore our family apart, I'd become the strong one. At 15, I worked doubles at a diner to help Mom pay rent. Ethan, 18, checked out, leaving me to pick up the pieces. That pattern, me fixing, them taking, had followed us into adulthood. I gave them $150,000, 0 cents, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. That could have been my startup, my house, my life. And they called me their ATM. Dr. Kessler leaned forward. "What did that moment at the party teach you about your worth?" I swallowed hard. "That I've been measuring it by what I can give, not who I am." She nodded. "And now you're rewriting that story." But it's going to hurt before it heals. The hurt came faster than I expected. That night as I walked home from the BART station, a car screeched to a stop beside me. Two men in ski masks jumped out, their shadows looming under the streetlights. "Drop the Cyberpeak story," one growled, his hand gripping my arm. The other flashed a knife, its blade catching the light. My heart pounded, but I yanked free, adrenaline surging. "Touch me again, and I'll scream," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. A passing cyclist slowed, eyeing us, and the men bolted, disappearing into an alley. I ran home, my breath ragged, and barricaded my door, my hands shaking as I called Ryan. "They're not just threatening me anymore," I said. "They're coming for me." "We need to get your evidence to the feds," he said, "but you need protection first. I know a guy, ex-cop, now private security. Can you afford it?" I laughed bitterly. Barely. Ethan and Sarah drained me dry. The $150,000 0 cents I'd given them could have paid for a bodyguard, a lawyer, a new life. Instead, I was dodging knives in alleys and drones on beaches. The next day, I met Natalie, my cousin, and a Seattle lawyer over Zoom. Her sharp bob and no-nonsense voice were a comfort, even through a screen. "The family's been talking," she said, rolling her eyes. "Ethan's telling everyone you're selfish, but Sarah's starting to crack. She knows they've been using you." Natalie had seen it for years, the way Ethan and Sarah leaned on me, how Diane enabled it with her family-first mantra. "You did the right thing at that party," she said. "Tearing up that tuition check? Iconic." I smiled, but the weight of Lily School's legal notice pressed on me. They claimed I owed $25,000, 0 cents, for committed tuition payments, citing a contract Ethan had forged with my name. "Can they do this?" I asked Natalie. She frowned, scrolling through the documents I'd sent. "It's shaky, but they're trying to scare you. I'll handle it. Focus on staying safe." Safe. The word felt like a cruel joke. That afternoon, I opened my email to find a new message from an unknown sender, a grainy photo of me at the Puget Sound beach, the drone's perspective chillingly clear. Below it, a single line. "We see you, Claire." My heart stopped. I forwarded to Ryan, who called immediately. "This is escalation," he said. "They're trying to break you. Don't let them." I didn't. I met Ryan at a dive bar that night, the kind with sticky floors and neon signs buzzing in the dark. He slid me a burner phone. "Use this for anything sensitive," he said. "Your regular phone's probably compromised." I nodded, my fingers brushing his as I took it, a spark of something, trust, maybe more, passing between us. Ryan was different from anyone I'd dated. He understood the stakes, the danger, the weight of standing up to giants like Cyberpeak. Over beers, he told me about his own brother, a gambler who'd bled him dry until he cut him off. "It hurts," he said, his eyes meeting mine. "But you're not alone." The next week was a blur of paranoia and defiance. I started carrying pepper spray, checking my mirrors for that black SUV. Cyberpeak's legal team upped the ante, filing a defamation lawsuit against me, claiming my false allegations had damaged their reputation. The lawsuit demanded $500,000, 0 cents, more than I'd ever see in my savings again thanks to Ethan and Sarah. I met with Natalie in person when I flew to Seattle for Lily's aquarium outing. "This is a scare tactic," she said, sipping coffee in a downtown cafe. "They want you to settle, to shut up. Don't." Lily was my light in the darkness. At the aquarium, her face lit up as she pressed her nose against the glass, watching jellyfish pulse in neon blues. "Did you know they don't have brains?" she said, grinning. I laughed, ruffling her hair. "You're smarter than all of us, kid." We spent the day coding a simple app on my tablet, her fingers flying across the screen. For the first time, our bond wasn't about money. It was about her curiosity, her joy, her trust in me. But when she hugged me goodbye, she whispered, "Mom says we might lose our house. Is that my fault?" My heart broke. "No, Lily," I said. "Your parents made choices. I'm here for you always." Back in San Francisco, the threats escalated. I woke one morning to find my car's tires slashed, a note tucked under the wiper, "Last warning." I called Ryan, who showed up within the hour, his face grim. "This is beyond Cyberpeak's usual playbook," he said, examining the note. I dug deeper. That government contractor, they're tied to a Black Ops program. If your evidence links Cyberpeak to illegal surveillance, you're not just a whistleblower. You're a national security risk. I felt the ground shift beneath me. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "We go to the feds," he said. "But we need to be careful. Meet me tomorrow at a safe house I know. Bring everything you've got." That night I barely slept, my mind spinning with questions. Who was behind the drone? The SUV? The masked men? Was it just Cyberpeak? Or was Ethan somehow involved, desperate to keep his lifestyle afloat? I pushed the thought away. He was selfish, but not that cruel. Still, the doubt lingered, a splinter in my mind. The safe house was a nondescript apartment in Oakland, its windows covered with blackout curtains. Ryan's ex-cop friend, Marcus, stood guard, his broad frame filling the doorway. I handed over my encrypted drive, my hands shaking as Ryan copied the files. "This is enough to bring Cyberpeak down," he said, his eyes scanning the screen, "but we need to get it to the right people. I've got a contact at the FBI, but we have to move fast." Before we could finish, the door rattled. Marcus drew a gun, motioning us to stay quiet. Footsteps circled outside, heavy and deliberate. My heart pounded as Ryan grabbed my hand, pulling me toward a back exit. "Go," Marcus whispered, his eyes locked on the door. We slipped out into an alley, the sound of breaking glass echoing behind us. We ran, my lungs burning, until we reached Ryan's car. He sped off, his knuckles white on the wheel. "That was too close," he said. "They're not playing anymore." The next day, Sarah's letter arrived. A 7-page handwritten confession that shook me to my core. "I've been a terrible sister-in-law," she wrote. "The ATM comment was cruel, but it was more than that. We used you, Claire, because it was easier than facing our own failures. I'm so sorry." She detailed their changes. Ethan's second job at a warehouse, her selling designer clothes, their decision to downsize. "We're struggling. But it's honest now. I miss you. Not your money, but you." I read it 3 times, tears blurring the words. Dr. Kassler's warning echoed. Apologies don't always mean change. But something in Sarah's words felt real, raw, different. I called her for a video chat, my guard up, but my heart open. She looked exhausted, her hair unstyled, her nails bare. "Lily's thriving in public school," she said, a small smile breaking through. "She's on the robotics team, top of her math class." We talked for 2 hours, navigating the wreckage of our past. I was clear, no more money, but I wanted a relationship. "I'm trying, Claire," she said, tears streaming. "I'm in therapy. Ethan's struggling, but he's trying too." In May, I flew to Seattle for coffee with Sarah. She arrived early, 2 black coffees waiting, her eyes tired but honest. "Ethan's angry," she admitted. "He thinks you abandoned us. But I know we pushed you to it." She was working part-time at Lily's school, finding pride in earning her own money. "Therapy's hard," she said. "I used to think it was nonsense, but it's making me see how entitled we were." Ethan's email came a week later, stiff but sincere. "I messed up," he wrote. "We lived beyond our means because we knew you'd bail us out. I'm working on our marriage, our money, myself. I don't expect forgiveness yet, but I'm trying." Lily, meanwhile, was saving her allowance for a drone kit, beaming with pride at her public school's science fair win. "Dad's teaching me to budget," she told me during a coding camp outing, her eyes bright. "Mom says we're more honest now." But the danger didn't stop. Cyberpeak's lawsuit loomed, threatening to drain my savings. Natalie fought it, but the stress was relentless. Then came the biggest blow. Ryan's FBI contact confirmed the government contractor angle. "Your evidence suggests Cyberpeak was funneling user data to a black ops program," he said. "If you go public, you're painting a target on your back." I felt like I was drowning, but I couldn't stop now. I handed over the files, my hands steady despite the fear. The breakthrough came in June at Lily's 13th birthday. A modest picnic in a Seattle park, homemade cookies replacing the $2,000 0-cents cake. Ethan shook my hand awkwardly, his eyes avoiding mine, but his gratitude clear. Sarah hugged me, her simple jeans and t-shirt a stark contrast to last year's designer sundress. Lily showed off her robotics trophy, her smile brighter than ever. Diane, watching us, had tears in her eyes. "I thought we'd lost you," she said. "I enabled Ethan too long, leaned on you too much. I'm sorry, Claire." As we sat under an oak tree, Sarah handed me a lemonade, her voice soft. "You saved us," she said, "not with money, but by stopping it. We were headed for a crash, and you forced us to face reality." I nodded, the weight of a decade lifting. "We're going to be okay," I said, and for the first time I believed it. But as I drove back to my hotel, Ryan called, his voice urgent. "The feds are moving on Cyberpeak," he said. "Your evidence is airtight. But there's chatter. Someone high up wants you silenced. Stay low, Claire." My heart raced. Who was behind the drone, the crash, the masked men? Was it Lang, the government, or something darker? And would my family's fragile new bond survive if my whistleblowing brought danger to their doorstep? I gripped the wheel, the road ahead uncertain but my resolve unbreakable. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for the truth, for Lily, for the life I deserved.